All right, back by popular demand, we're going to be doing another fiction nitty-gritty analysis video. What's up, guys? My name is Michael Aran with Author Level Up, helping you write world-class stories better and faster. And I create these videos because I believe that each of you has an inner Ken Follett, and you just need help unlocking it. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and click that little bell, ding, 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 to get notifications every time I have a new writing video. And you all told me that the last fiction video that I did, you liked that so much, you wanted to see me do some more of this stuff. So we're going to get nitty-gritty here. We're going to talk about some things that I have observed while reading the books of mega bestsellers, and we're going to talk about the art of writing sentences. But first, I want to let you guys know that today's video is sponsored by my book, The Writing Craft Playbook, 20 Fiction and Nonfiction Tricks to Keep Your Readers in the Zone, Volume 1. And if you like what you're going to see here in this video, you're going to be right at home in the Writing Craft Playbook, because I get super nitty-gritty with tons of really practical examples to help you take your fiction to the next level. And I got news for you. It is free, 100% free. All you have to do is join my fan club at authorlevelup.com/fan club, and you can get it and start reading it right away. So that is our sponsor for the video today. Now, I've got this other video that I alluded to, and it's called Read Like a Writer, and you don't have to watch that video to get some value out of this video, but it certainly will help if you watch it, because it does outline my philosophy for studying fiction, which is contrarian and probably not like anybody else's that you've heard. So you can click that YouTube card at the top of the screen, or just simply wait till this video is done and click it on my end screen when you're done watching it. All right, so writing sentences. Writing sentences, I gotta let you know some things here. Writing sentences ain't about writing sentences. Well, what do I mean by that? And yes, I'm using the word ain't because I'm having some fun tonight. So, writing is not rolling out a red carpet to your desk and having all these people take pictures of you like a rock star and sitting down at your gold-plated keyboard and putting on these fancy, smancy special gloves and typing a few words, and then those words get onto the page and they sing, and readers all over the world swoon, and you've written these beautiful things, these beautiful sentences that make people on Twitter melt. No, that's not what we're talking about. Writing sentences ain't about writing sentences. Writing sentences ain't about writing pretty. This is not about writing pretty. We got to keep this practical. So, to break some of you out of this mindset, we got to have this talk here. This is what you're going to have to write on the chalkboard after school in order to understand this and understand this truly. All right? Sentences are just sentences. Sentences aren't sexy. Sentences are boring. Sentences are merely identifiers, and sentences are nothing more than tools for us as writers to help us convey our words onto the page. I learned this from Dean Wesley Smith. You can certainly learn it by picking up the books of any mega bestseller. Their sentences aren't pretty. They're practical. They're technical. They're functional. They don't draw attention to themselves. Like, read Michael Crichton or Nora Roberts or any mega bestseller. They don't write pretty sentences, right? They don't write pretty sentences. They just write sentences that do what it is that they're supposed to do. It's kind of like a meal that you eat when you go to a restaurant where you're like, this wasn't the greatest meal I ever had, but it wasn't the worst meal I ever had, but it did get the job done, right? That's what we're talking about here. Sentences are merely identifiers. Now, you have to ask, Michael, sentences as identifiers for what? Now, there's someone I'm really fond of, a content creator, and he said, I'm not an academic. I'm not going to sit here and talk about philosophy. I'm not going to talk about theory. I'm not going to dissect a book like a frog. I'm not an academic. I'm a pracademic, right? We need to keep this practical, because too many people are going to click on this video and they're going to think, I probably should watch this video because I need to write better sentences. No, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not telling you to up your sentence game. I'm just simply telling you to think about sentences as a jumping off point for looking at a passage of fiction. More specifically, something that you'd like to study by that writer. And we're going to talk about the 6 types of sentences, but just remember, sentences are identifiers. Something you'd like to study by that writer, nothing more, nothing less. And no YouTube video would be complete without an acronym. So our acronym for today is Remember CHADS, CHADS. CHADS plural, all right? And we're talking about 6 types of fiction sentences that I see over and over again and again, as long as the day is long, as long as the night is night, in every best-selling book that I've ever read, and in every book that I've read, for that matter, that's not even a bestseller. 6 types of sentences, all right? The first is the character's opinion about a setting or the situation, all right? The second is the history of the character. We have action, we have dialogue, and we have sensory details. That's it. Of course, this is Michael LeBron's opinion. There are other people that could probably slice and dice this in other ways, but I believe very strongly that you can look at any piece of fiction and you cannot find anything that is not one of these 6 categories to some degree. So let's use an example here, because we got to keep this practical. We got a hero, and the hero's name is Chad. And Chad visits a bakery. Chad is a detective looking for a murderer. Ooh, it's kind of exciting, right? And the chase leads Chad to a neighborhood bakery that's he's been to 1,000,000 times, but never in a detective capacity. So let's break this scene down. But before we do that, good form for any fiction, right? We have to set the scene up. So I'm just going to set the scene up and paint this with a few brush strokes. Something I wrote just real quick, all right? So this bakery is a prim little brick building on Main Street, USA. I live in the Midwest and in Iowa. Seems like all the small towns had this little square, and around that square is all these cute little buildings, these old buildings, joisted masonry buildings that were built in the 1800s. That's what we're talking about here. We got a bakery wedged between a guitar shop and an exotic pet store, and we got a creepy iguana looking at Chad as he walks into the bakery. And we got a teenaged employee in an apron on a ladder dusting off the awning in front of the building, and she's listening to pop music on her phone. That's where we begin. We got character opinion. I wrinkled my lips at the girl, and then what's in blue is what the character opinion is here. She's going to fall off that ladder and break her neck, and I'm going to have to call the ambulance. Do I want that, or have a hole stared in my head by this creepy-ass iguana? Give me the iguana any day. So this is interior monologue. This is the character talking about how they feel about another character or how they feel about the situation. And through this, we can tell that this Chad guy is a little bit of a grumpy guy. But, if you like your hard-boiled detectives, then you'd be right at home in this story, right? History. The teenage girl saw me and climbed down the ladder. She introduced herself as the owner I talked to on the phone. I visited this bakery at least 100 times to pick up coffee for me and my team, but I had never seen her before. So clearly this woman is not a teenager. First impressions are wrong, right? So what's in blue here is the history. This shows us here that Chad has been to this bakery. This is something that exists in his world. It's not just some random place he comes to. There's history here, and we're getting a glimpse into what makes him who he is. He picks up coffee for him and his team. That's kind of an admirable thing to do. And if you think about all of the books where you read where you have recurring main characters, Jack Reacher, Alex Cross, Harry Potter, they all have these bits here and there that are dispersed throughout the novel, throughout every chapter, that give you insights into who the character is and why they are the way they are. That's what this is about. Now we've got action. Action is fairly straightforward. She shook my hand firmly, and then with one arm, strong-armed the ladder into a nook next to the door. She swept off the dust on her overalls with a flick of the wrist. Next thing I know, I was following her through the glass door that chimed every time a customer entered. All right? So action is a character doing something. Next topic. Dialogue. You're early, she said. I thought you'd be here at 2. I like to keep folks on their toes, I said, looking around. I don't think I need to go that much further into dialogue. I think we all understand what that is and how it works. And then we've got sensory details. So it must have been near closing time. The curved glass displays, usually filled with pans of cupcakes and artisan cookies, were nearly empty. Still, the smell of warm oatmeal lingered. In the kitchen, a pan clanged against something metallic, and an employee cursed. So I've got some sensory details in here. I've got some sight, I've got some smells, I've got potentially some tastes. If you count cupcakes and artisan cookies, I count that as a taste. And then we've got potentially a texture here with something metallic, and we've painted the picture, and we're helping the reader see the scene a little bit further because we have changed settings. Anytime you change a setting, even if small, you got to make sure you set it up, right? So that's sensory details. So that's it, everybody. That is those. See how I just read you a passage of fiction that I made up relatively quickly, but you can see how all of these things work together as these little units, right? And if you understand that, that's going to help you not only when you're writing, but it's also going to help you when you are looking at a passage of fiction that you admire, because then you're not just looking at a sentence, right? You're looking at a tool. Okay, how did the author make this work? So let's just review this real quick, all right? So CHADS, that's our acronym. Character's opinion about a setting or the situation, history of the character, action, dialogue, sensory details. Extra credit, it's worth also mentioning that a sentence can be a mixture of any of these CHADS elements as well. All right, that's our acronym. So the next time you're reading a book by your favorite author and you go, wow, how did the author do that? You may find that certain CHADS draw you in more than others. For example, I love good interior monologue. I'm just drawn toward it. I love writers that do a really good job with interior monologue. And writers who do that will usually captivate me. And since I don't always focus on history, I've learned to be on the lookout for it more and appreciate those writers that do a really good job weaving in the history of a character in a story, because those are things that I can learn from, right? So remember, the next time you go, wow, ask yourself, which element of CHADS intrigued me? Because then you can be more strategic about looking at something about why it worked and why it didn't. Next, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this character going into a bakery that this scene captured my attention? So then ask, what specifically about this passage caught my attention? Why is it that I stopped in my tracks and started paying attention to it? Then study that specific part that made you go, wow, and you can be intentional about it. Now, remember, I am a big believer in keeping things practical and not spending a whole afternoon looking at a passage of fiction. I think that's crazy. What I'd like to do, just spend a couple minutes on it and then move on, because your time is best spent writing. And more specifically, your time is also best spent continuing to read more books. Don't make studying fiction this big, monumentous event. Make it just a tool and a way for you to experience the works of other writers and expose yourself to new techniques, and you'll be just fine. So, just as a reminder, you can get your free playbook today at authorlevelup.com/fanclub. If you liked what you saw here in this video, you are going to be right at home in the Cried and Craft playbook. It's 20 fiction and nonfiction tricks to keep your readers in the zone and level up your writing. So, as always, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.